Today is all about bookkeeper cleanups. You might love them, you might hate them. Like me, I don't love them, but they are a reality for most bookkeepers. And I have another couple videos that go, I think I have one that goes step by step what to do in a cleanup, and then maybe some basics of a cleanup, and then also what I call a catch-up. And a catch-up is more when the books aren't really messy, like you're not fixing mistakes, but you're just catching up on a lot of old years that have not been done. So if you've never heard the word cleanup before, maybe go check out those videos first. But if you're here for the 9 things to think about cleanups, you're in the right place. Number 1 is that cleanups can be lucrative. So depending on the size of the mess you're cleaning up, you could make like kind of a large chunk of money in like a short amount of time, because this person has been slacking for many years. Maybe they haven't hired a bookkeeper this whole time, or it's probably a stressful situation to the business owner. Not that we're taking advantage of their stress, but my point is you're doing one really big project in a short amount of time. I've always kind of thought that Veronica Wasek was the guru when it comes to cleanups. I'm going to talk about 2 different classes that might be helpful later in the video, and I'll leave them linked in the description box also. But my point is that Veronica Wasek says she will charge from like $1,000 to like $20,000 for a cleanup. So they can really range a lot in price. For me personally, like my average or more common cleanup, I would say is a couple $1,000s, like maybe $2,000, and maybe a little bit up from that. So one way to kind of think about the pricing of it that I heard someone say is you can take the monthly rate that you would charge them. So say you had a smallish client and they were like a $300 a month client. So their total price for the year is $3,600, right? So 12 months for $300. And then so think about the number 3,600. That's how much they would have paid a bookkeeper if they had hired them like correctly throughout the year. And then in many cases, there's some kind of like discount on that initial amount. So maybe you charge them half. I would say somewhere between like 50% to like 90% of that total that I gave you. And so I guess pricing could be a whole nother video because there's a lot to say about that. So let's chat about it in the comments if you're interested, but just remember my number 1 point was that they can be lucrative. And that kind of brings me into number 2, which you're kind of like gathering, is that scope can be really hard to estimate. So when you're just presented with someone's books, they might not understand how bad they are, how many mistakes have to be corrected, what a big mess it is. More often than not, they don't understand because otherwise it wouldn't have got to that point. So I'll tell you right now, this is not my strong suit, but a lot of bookkeepers will recommend that you do some kind of review ahead of time. You want to look at their books in entirety, give them a list of things that you need. Maybe it's tax returns, maybe it's bank statements, it's definitely their QuickBooks account. And then you want to get eyes on the whole picture and kind of diagnose what's going on. And that will hopefully give you some idea of the price and how long it will take. Again, this definitely takes practice, which we will talk more about in number 7. Number 3 is the client responsiveness really affects your timeline. So in my experience, a lot of times clients are really excited at the beginning to do a cleanup, and then their interest kind of peters out over time. They get kind of either overwhelmed, or they get focused on other things, or they're just tired of you asking for things. And so in an ideal world, I would like a cleanup to be done within about a month, maybe 2 months if it's something really big. But it can drag on for like 6 months if your client is not getting back to you with the info you need. So as much as you can, try to establish guidelines up front. Maybe you have certain meetings along the way. So you meet once a week on Thursday for just 15 minutes, do a quick check-in. Maybe you expect an email reply within 24 hours. Anything you can do to kind of like set the stage, set both of your expectations, I think will help. Oh, number 4 actually was cleanups take time. I kind of merged those, but they take a long time, a month to 6 months. Oftentimes bookkeepers will only have one cleanup going at a time just because it takes a lot of focus and time, especially if you have some like ongoing monthly clients. I don't think I've ever done more than one cleanup at a time. But like with anything, experience helps. And so that brings me to my next point, which is just doing cleanups can be a specialty as a bookkeeper. So I really do see this as being potentially really profitable. If you figure out really how to speak to that client's pain points, tell them I'm going to do it in this amount of time, you get really good at diagnosing the problem, get really good at pricing them, you have exactly down like what you're going to say in different situations. So if you're always doing cleanups for medical practices, you know like how to deal with insurance, and you know all the codes for medical stuff. And I really think anything we get experience and dedicate time to, we can get really good at. So I used to work in corporate America for Target, and there was this one part of my job that I hated. It was called price accuracy, and it was like how to do markdowns in the stores. And when I came to the job, I was so annoyed by this one particular part of my job. But over time, I was like, I'm gonna tackle that one part. And so I became an expert in price accuracy. I figured out how to make it easier. I figured out how to motivate the team. I figured out how to make it more accurate. And then in time, my boss asked me to share my findings with other people in my district. So that was always the example I remember, as anything we dedicate like time and effort to becomes easier, and it might even become fun over time. So I do think as a bookkeeper, if I set my mind to like, I want to do cleanups and I want that to be my niche and that's what I want to be known for, and then I feel like that would work out. I feel like people would start knowing me as the bookkeeper who does cleanups, and then they'd start referring people to me for that specific thing. If you don't know me, my name is Morgan. You can subscribe to my channel. You can also join for a few more perks. It's like $5 a month, and if you click on the join button, it explains what's included, and it does help support my small business. I have tons more free and some paid resources on my website, FinePoints.biz, and I just started a TikTok too, so you can see me on here, TikTok. Here's my username, and I'm just kind of having fun over there. So if you're on there, definitely stop by and follow me. All right, next thing to think about is it's not recurring income. So this is a kind of important one for me that I don't remember right away, is that as a bookkeeper, usually if I'm doing monthly books for people, I don't have to keep going out and getting new clients. But if cleanups are your niche and you are working with those business owners in a time when their books are really messy, and then you clean them and then maybe you hand them off, and of course it is possible that they hire you ongoing once you've done a client cleanup for them. And that is more often what happens to me, is, or kind of like the inverse of that. So they hire me as their monthly bookkeeper, and then like, oh, and also my books are really messy, so I have to spend the first 2 months like fixing things, and then they're my client. But do think about that if you want it to be more like your niche, is that you're gonna have to keep finding those new clients with messy books. And that might actually be easier than you think. Next one is that timing matters. So think about the seasonal demand. Like other things in bookkeeping, a lot of people are going to be remembering that they need to fix their books and do a cleanup around tax time or getting ready for tax season. So maybe like November through March is kind of probably a heavier cleanup season. So that's just a good thing to take note of if you're doing marketing specifically for this type of clients. All right, number 8 is that there are training courses specifically for cleanups. So I've already mentioned Veronica Wasek. She's a free, I think it's called Colossal Cleanup Checklist. And then she also has a longer course that goes into cleanups in great detail. So all this stuff that I'm talking about, I'm going to link in my description box. I think most of them are affiliate links, so that actually does help out my small business. If you heard about this class from me and then you just use my link, it's no extra cost to you, but I just get credit for recommending you. So Veronica has always been kind of like the OG person that I think of for cleanups. And then a newer person is Margie, who you've heard me talk about her class. She's just did some rebranding, but her class is called Quick and Easy QBO, that helps you pass the QuickBooks Online certification test. So she has that class, but then she also has a class specifically on cleanups. And if you guys are interested, let me know. I might do a dedicated video on this where I can show you inside the class and stuff, because I haven't looked into that class specifically because it's a little newer. So her new brand is called Acadian, I believe I'm saying it correctly. But I did think it was kind of interesting because I was in a Facebook group and someone was looking for a recommendation on a class in cleanups, and they made a little poll. And here's what it looked like. So the Acadian class was actually higher than Veronica Wasek's class. And this could just be a bit due to name recognition, because Margie has been marketing a lot recently. So I see her Facebook ads everywhere and Instagram ads, and she sends out a lot of emails and she does some lives. I think she's trying to get her name out there. And so I think it's working, honestly. And I do trust her and like her teaching style. So even though I haven't been, through every module of this course, I do believe that that would be a great class. And again, I'm interested in digging into that a little bit more and just maybe doing a price comparison and a content comparison. So if you guys seem interested in this video, then that might be another one that you see upcoming. Number 9 is that deposits or some kind of payment terms are really important, because I've heard many stories of bookkeepers who kind of got in a sticky situation where maybe they had a miscommunication with the client. I don't even think always the client is at fault, but the client didn't understand how much money this was going to cost them, and it can be stressful for both parties. And what I've done in the past is I'm okay, I'm gonna work for a week and then I'm gonna check in and tell you where I'm at and tell you how much it's cost you so far. that type of thing. So as with many things, communication is key. Also, most bookkeepers would recommend getting a deposit up front. So maybe it's like half the money is due at the beginning and then half the money is due at the end, kind of like when you do a house project. And I 100% know that it is difficult to price these things and to, like I said, like figure out the scope and all that, but clear and honest communication I feel like goes a long way.